Hello everyone, this is Dawn. I'm here for the fifth in a series of videos on the broader applications of the core teachings of Jesus from the path of sacred partnership. This is from my book and online journey called Sacred Partnership, 7 Pillars for the Radical Redefinition of Relationship. But this series of videos is about the broader applications of these core teachings that came through in this book. For us all, for society as a whole, for all human relationships, and for just in general in our lives. So it is the evening. I don't guess this really matters when I'm recording it, but I was just a little heads up here that I wasn't expecting to do this, and it's the evening, and I was like, no, let me look better in the morning. And Jesus like, nope, we're doing it now. And I'm like, I haven't read it in a while. And he's like, it's okay, you got this. And so I am completely doing this off the cuff. And he said I was going to be busy later this week. And I was like, oh, okay. I thought I had my schedule clear because it's like Thanksgiving week here in the United States. And I'm, by myself, but apparently I'll be busy. So he just makes me laugh sometimes. So he wants me to go ahead and do this. And all I know is that the topic is sacred witness. So I'm going to have my glasses on for this one because I'm definitely going to have to be referring to the notes, although he says that I'll have things to say. Okay, enough of that beginning. So in case I cut that part out, this is a video to discuss the broader applications of the core teachings of Jesus, and specifically we're looking at the fifth of the 7 teachings, or the 7 pillars for the radical redefinition of relationship. And this pillar is, let me get the proper wording, is about sacred partnership and service to humanity through soulful creativity. Oh, I see why I have a lot to say about it. Yes, sacred witness. So our theme is sacred witness. And the sort of follow-up on that is it's about service to humanity through soulful creativity. And this is something that really jazzes me up, so I can see that it probably will be a little easier for me to speak to off the cuff here. So great. So sacred witness, the last 3 of the 7 core teachings form a pyramid capstone, if you will. On top of the other 4 are the 4 columns of a structure, and these are the capstone pillars: sacred witness, sacred service, and sacred restoration. And the 3 work as one, which is why he was calling my attention to that. And the way that they are expressed, sacred witness, sacred service, sacred restoration, is by when we can draw on our soul's truth and radiance and bring that forward and express. And so today we're talking about, in conjunction with sacred witness, we're talking about soulful creativity. Then in our next video, we'll talk a little bit about sacred service and how that comes through soulful contribution, slightly different angle. And then the third, sacred restoration, that comes through soulful community. So I just wanted to mention that right off the bat because these work together, and we're always moving in and out of those last 3, which are in many ways one must have the foundational first 4 pillars in place to be able to most fully express soulful creativity, soulful contribution, and soulful community, which then aligns us with sacred witness, sacred service, and sacred restoration. So refer to the book or the online journey if you want to know more about what Jesus had to say specifically about sacred partnership. Today we're going to broaden that lens a bit, and we're going to look at just in general, as we move through life, what can this teaching tell us? And so the way that these core teachings came about, if you're just catching this video and haven't watched the others, is that I asked a series of questions back in 2015 and 2016. The question that actually led to this teaching on sacred witness, the big question was, how can we do it differently this time? Meaning, as you move forward in relationship, how can we do this differently? So big question, right? And so this teaching came through on sacred witness, which was, of course, not the answer I was expecting, especially back then, and especially with the particular regard with which I was asking it, or what I was asking it in reference to. So today we're going to talk about this teaching of sacred witness and how sacred witness we can move into an attitude of sacred witness through soulful creativity, creative expression, but also just in general, the attribute of creativity, seeing ourselves as creators and stepping into the circle of recreation and being aligned with and a part of the whole creation. And the other top level topics that we might touch on are the idea of witness and redemption, the idea of awareness and surrender, and then the whole topic of creative witness, being creative about how we show up as a witness in the world. And then finally, I'll probably touch on the fact that this core teaching is aligned with the fifth of 7 wonders of the soul. The 7 wonders of the soul are faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, and beauty. And so this one, sacred witness, is actually aligned with growth, which does pertain directly to my question of how can we do it differently this time, and is Jesus's teaching, as you will see, is all around this idea of bearing witness as a gateway to our growth. So let me get back to the chapter so I can I always like to start out with the first things he shared around this teaching. Here we go. As I asked my question, which was, how can we do it differently this time? And I had 3 sub-questions, which were, what will ensure the success of our partnership? What gets in the way of a dynamic and sustainable relationship? And then how can we see one another rightly? That last one was highly important to me. Thus, I'm sure why we dived into sacred witness right away. Understanding that the invitation here was actually to release all past disappointment, because often when we we burden things from the beginning. When we come to a new relationship, a new experience in life, a new anything, when we come to it with this whole story and all the baggage and the weight of the disappointment. I've talked about disappointment before as being an invitation when we're feeling disappointed to realize, hey, we might be missing our appointment. We might be in our attachment to what is not, or the perceived lack, or we might actually be not present. And so this again is aligned with this idea of sacred witness. So releasing disappointments was key here. And I want you to consider this in terms of just the experience of your life as a whole. So the first invitation for us is to see through new eyes by acknowledging that grace is freely given and it's accessible to us in any moment, in any circumstance, in any dynamic, in any relationship, in any experience of life. That grace and gratitude are things that are here for us to see. And so this is like one of the keys to seeing through new eyes, is essentially to have the courage to see life with fresh eyes and to invite a new experience. Jesus talks about new wineskins and in the Bible, and that's it's a good metaphor for this. So first of all, it's about how we show up in the first place before we try to see each other rightly and or meet the other and or a circumstance or a situation or life itself. So there was some discussion then about that and limited perspectives that hold us back. And so the idea of beginning with a fresh perspective, but in the moment, staying in the moment, not trying to, and this is, a place that I get tripped up often. Like, I want the roadmap, like give me the 10,000 foot mile year view, and then, give me the first steps and I'm good to go. But what he was saying is, no, you are where you are. You are where you are. Be there. Adorn your life with beauty is one of the things he talked a lot about in this part about bearing sacred witness, and that to basically, here's a sentence. Let me read you a sentence here that came through. Lay aside your need for contrast and comparison in favor of gathering up the bounty of the blessing there for you to receive in all circumstance. Only when you fix your eyes on the way of expansion can you enter into it. By being fully present to the gift being offered in the singularly magnificent moment in which you find yourselves now, then all things are made new. So this was this whole image, right, of everything being made new just by the very fact of how we're showing up to other people, a partner, and or our world, our job, our day-to-day responsibilities, caring for other people if you're a caretaker, or for animals. All of it is enhanced and our experience lifted up naturally, and all things made new simply by us being fully present to the gift that is being offered in the moment, in the moment, in the moment. So no surprise, it all comes back to presence. So let's get into the teaching now. So sacred witness through soulful creativity. When I mentioned the capstone pillars, one thing that I may not have explained here at the beginning is that these are energetic pathways. There's interplay between those three pillars of sacred witness, sacred service, and sacred restoration. And because of that, there's an overlap between the three, and there's a fusion that happens where those lines intersect in like in invisible lines that come to the center of that. So it's one thing, this capstone that is formed by these three energetic pillars. And so it's helpful to keep that in mind just in terms of how we meet life, that I try to think of those three as working together. How can I bear sacred witness in this circumstance? How can I be a part of sacred restoration, and how can I be of service in this sacred moment? So there is in this one of the things that was really pivotal for me is like I'm like, okay, great, show up in the present, be present, and all things will be made new, but I'm like, but how? And one of the things that was really critical for me in these last three core teachings is that, well, if I truly receive the gift of the sacred in every situation, then I'm naturally, I maintain that connection with my soul self, my whole self, and my soul self. And I naturally draw upon my soul's truth and radiance, and I want to give it to life. And so what a visual that I was given here is that what happens for a lot of us is we don't see things as sacred. It has to meet a lot of criteria for us to consider it sacred. And yet all of life is sacred, and all of life is a gift. And there is something to be grateful for in every moment of every day, of every situation. It may be what we're learning. It may be the fact that I have a roof over my head at the moment. It may be that, a lot of things aren't going right in this relationship or this situation with, whomever, whatever. And yet there's always something there for us. And so it's about being willing to not close ourselves down because of our disappointment or our attachment to the way we think it should be, and rather to first meet all that is in whatever state it appears, even if it looks like a mess, as sacred, and to step into that, be willing to step into that circle of recreation, not to fix it or change it, but rather to meet the sacredness of it, and to honor what is and ourselves in the process and in process with what is, and to meet it and to see it with fresh eyes, and to have I want to use the word expectation, but I want to be clear that what we have to let go of is how that word is usually defined, or how we normally have expectations, because that's the very... Okay, I think I'm back here. So as we got deeper into this teaching, one of the things that Jesus continually brought me back to is that change is inevitable. It's, we're always in process in any situation, in any circumstance of life, in any relationship. It's always ever changing. And this is part of the beautiful, this beautiful reality that is, a constant creation and recreation. And so to celebrate that, to celebrate life itself, and that also to see that that in the same way we are always being created anew. And so there is this opportunity always to see that grace is at work in us, through us, around us, in the world at large. And we have become accustomed to looking for what's not right and seeing all of the brokenness and or the flaws and in ourselves and in the other, and that those layers of judgment and the burden become so great that it darkens, it dims our view of ourselves and of the people that we meet along the way. So there is a tie that Jesus made between witness, sacred witness, and redemption. And he talked a lot about this act of, we're always engaged in this act of redemption because we become a vessel, and we're filled up with love and with the blessing, a bounty of the blessing that is meant to be shared with the world. And only in that full receiving of the grace that is there for us, and the full returning of that to other people and to this situation, and using our unique expression. This is where creativity comes in, our soul-inspired creativity, and using our unique sacred seeds of essence that are within us and bringing those forward and giving that to life. We are in that process of receiving the grace that is so freely given, and in giving back, we are engaged in the act of redemption that serves. It is a sacred service to the other, to ourselves, to all creation, and it is an act of appreciation and gratitude for the Creator. So he talked also about not turning away from pain that we have due to our life journey. Many of us have shut ourselves off in such a way that we can't take anymore, and so we don't want to look at certain things. And because we've already predetermined that we're not going to see certain things, we close ourselves down. And so see how it all comes back to who we're being and how connected we are to our own souls. And so rather than turning away from the pain within ourselves or within another or within a circumstance or within the world at large, he was talking a lot about how important it was to tune into God, who is love, and the love that is present within and underneath and beyond all of this. And again, entering into, not becoming enmeshed with, but entering into situations, knowing that we are held in an infinite grace, trusting in that life is working in our favor, and allowing for the free flow of love. Because often it's that cutting off of our supply, both the receiving and the giving, that is the real detriment here. And it creates a situation in which we can't be fully present. And we're not honoring our own journey and our own being in process. And we're not honoring the other, or we're certainly not giving grace to other people and situations, because we have become fixed and rigid. So there's a lot about flow in here, and maintaining a willingness to kind of dance with life. and to give up our need for control. That one's huge. And so creativity and drawing on that well of creativity, and by the way, creativity here is not just creative expression as in art or painting or drawing or dancing or singing. It is those things for some people, but it can equally be using your creative genius, your mental faculties. It can equally be a compassionate heart, a servant's heart, a person. So there are all these gifts that come into play also, and it's an array. So soulful creativity is really just about expressing the uniqueness of who you are and showing up authentically and fully present. And when we show up authentically and fully present and connected and allow for that connection, keep our hearts open and allowing for that connection, then there will naturally be a more creative experience of life itself, of any circumstance we find ourselves in or relationship. So this idea of this is how redemption happens, to redeem. There's a lot more in the book about that, so I invite you to look there, but I think I've said probably enough about that. The second touchstone here is this idea of awareness and surrender. And surrender means surrendering our attachment to what we think we should see, what we want to see, this ideal that we always have in our hearts and minds. And so we have to be awake and aware to what is, to the real world that is reflected back to us. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to believe everything we see, because some of it might be appearances, but all of it is an invitation, a reflection, so that we can better understand or know ourselves and ourselves in context with others and in this place and time. So all of this has to do with sacred witness, because again, we're being willing to show up fully and present and to not close ourselves down, because it is we are not who we think we should be, or the other is not who we think they should be, or this circumstance, this world. This is the one that usually throws me off, is like, this place. But before we can even bear sacred witness, we have to allow for a space for grace. We have to be patient. And in our presence, we must be patient with ourselves and with the other. And so awareness is really, really key, and a continual practice of awareness. So being with what presents is kind of essential. Jesus was calling me back to, the truth that love is patient, and love doesn't rush in to fix everything. It sees, it breathes. It gives full recognition to what is. And sometimes that's pain, right? Before it rushes in to slap a Band-Aid on the wound, or like maybe that's a bad metaphor, but before you rush into change or alter the situation, get it just right, you might want to just be present to what you're feeling, what you are experiencing in a given moment. And just be present to that and bear witness. Can I get a witness? And with that awareness too, what happens is, as we're more aware and we allow for that vulnerability, we feel the love more. We see the grace. We experience the grace through our surrender to the flow of life itself. And we become more and more deeply connected with the love of God and the source of life that is always rising up and in any circumstance and is there. And so it's actually a realignment that happens through this awareness and through our own surrender of control. It's a realignment with life itself and with God, who is love. And love that is God. So in terms of relationship, there was a lot in this chapter here about the willingness of any two individuals or more who are in relationship with one another, or this pertains to groups and at the societal level as well. There is a need and a requirement actually for consent to undergo transformation, to be in the process of transformation again, in the flow of life. Because if one or multiple players on the stage are nope, it's all you, and or are seeing the situation itself maybe as something that needs to be, fixed or brought back into a certain order, and if that's how we're approaching it, we are already stemming the tide, or stemming the flow and the potential experience, the fullness of life. We're lessening it, we're dampening it down. I hope that's making sense. So the opposite of that is that the art of recreation, in other words, being connected to our own creative flow and being in conversation with, in a dance with others and with life and with our experience, this is all about it. It naturally primes the pump, so to speak, or primes things so that they become in a greater flow with ease and with sort of a bubbling joy, and then it's more fun for everyone. And so as you allow your heart to really be moved by what it is that meets you in that moment, in whatever way you're moved, right? And we're not talking about just all the happy feelings here, but allow your heart to be engaged and fully present and to move with life. Then you what's born within you is a natural desire to participate. Now, this gets into a little bit into differences in terms of personality and our own way of moving through life, but ultimately, this will open the door and invite us into that experience more deeply. The last thing I want to say here is that this idea of tapping into our soulful creativity, and this being something that is a natural way to remain aware and connected and present and in this state of sacred witness, is to bring forth our own creative expression and to honor and trust that to be not only enough, but the exact thing that is needed. Now, this doesn't mean, what it doesn't mean is this soulful creativity, it doesn't mean we're going to produce something and then ta-da. Rather, it means that we're going to be in the state of creation and recreation. And we're going to be in the flow and in conversation with our own unique expression, our own unique gifts, our fine gifts of original design. We're all creative. We all have something that is within us that we want to share. It may be really shut down, but it's there. And so and the only way to find out what that is to begin to express and to notice and to become really intimately aware of your own experience as you're expressing and as you are sharing. And sharing might be the better word there. It's about sharing. It's about connection, ultimately, is what creativity is. It's about it's about that spark of life itself, that creative force, and it doesn't have to be a force as in something that is forceful, but it could be also something just the flow of a stream. And all of this, I know I'm just all over the place with the metaphors there, but all of this, our willingness to enter into an experience, into the moment in our day-to-day lives, what happens is something goes out before us. It's like that voice in the wilderness, um, or it's like a river. A river runs through it, like a river that cuts its way and forges a path through, a desert spring, for example. And light enters into the dark places through creative acts of love, because ultimately that too is what creation and creativity can be, if we draw upon the highest frequency of our own talents, gifts, and desire to share with the world, either to give back, to create something new, to bring something fresh. All of that has its value. And it's interesting, as I have done that more and more in my life, I have noticed how I am naturally more connected to life itself, particularly if I'm drawing on, that wellspring of my soul's truth and radiance, and what my soul wants to express and to create. If I am disconnected from that and from my heart, then I might create, and it might be really pretty. It might be one of my most popular paintings, but it might be devoid of life energy and life force. So whatever it is that you create, and sometimes what you create is a connection, a conversation with someone, or a walk in the woods where you're creating through your connection. You're creating by being your unique self, like, singing a song as you walk, or noticing, because we all notice different things. And this goes back to sacred witness, because that itself is an act of creation and recreation. And it's bearing witness to what is, and it's lifting up the creation naturally, not through our own efforts, but rather through the grace that sustains us all things. It's moving through us. And so there's these last three are they're a little more nuanced, and they're also energetic pathways. And so it's all about the energy that is created when we show up and tap our soulful creativity in this case, and bear sacred witness to what is. So we become, in this way, creators of a new experience of our reality, not necessarily a new reality. Nothing might change, but we experience it differently. And so this is where I just really wholeheartedly believe that the more we can know who we are, and we can create those inner pathways of connection, the more that is reflected out and shared with the world. And as each of us does that, it's like an infinitely expanding universe of radiance, and everything again has a different shimmer, a different quality of light to it, and we feel more engaged, more playful, more alive, more joy-filled, and we experience ourselves as lighter and filled with love and life. And this is the story of life we're invited to step into now, as we step into that circle of recreation. And this is how we grow together as well. So this sacred witness is aligned with the wonder of growth, and can be a part of the redefinition of relationships, certainly, but can also, again, invite us to grow. Because what happens, frankly, is a lot of us think, well, we're grown up, we're adults, so what more is there? Well, there's always more. And this is a part of this whole creative approach to life, and to connecting soul to soul, heart to heart, soul to soul. And this growth, the wonder of growth in terms of the seven wonders, lines up with using our voice, our expression. And it is an opportunity for us to serve humanity, and to uplift the experience of all through bringing our soulfulness to the world, and to sharing more of who we are, and not shutting down just because things are looking pretty grim here. Like, I'm recording this in tail end of 2020, and so we've been through quite a year, haven't we? And so, yet in this circumstance, what better time to bear sacred witness, to the world, to one another as we meet each other on the way, and to life itself as it is unfolding. So I'm going to read this last part here. Let's see. Oh, a lot about play as well, and how we need to let love rise up within us and master the art of play. All right. And he goes more into that in that next teaching as well, so I'll save some of that. What I want to read is this. As we celebrate the creative contribution of another, we are raised to a fuller experience of life itself. Set free in love, we move to express ourselves individually and together wherever we may go. We allow our life to speak, and harmonies that are created by our soul songs awaken the world. Set free in love, we are raised to a fuller experience of life itself. So this idea of celebrating the creative contribution of another is a part of bearing sacred witness. So find things as you move through your life this week to celebrate, and look for opportunities to bring a further expression of the whole of who you are to the moment. But again, not in an effort to change it, but rather to meet it, to see the grace at work in it, and to celebrate that.